Morning, everyone. We're just checking to make sure we can be heard in the Zoom webinar.
Hello, Sam. We can hear you in Zoom loud and clear.
Great. Okay. So, Chair, we are ready to begin.
All right. We'll call this meeting to order. It's 9:01. Welcome to the October 18th 2022 Board of Supervisors meeting. As customary, we commonly do a moment of silence. However, it seems like we might have a moment of honor today. I didn't know if Supervisor Sabatier, you wanted to conduct that?
Yeah, we just have a retirement happening from our staff, a longtime staff member of the County of Lake, and making our community safer, and that is Detective Todd Dunya, who will be retiring. I don't know if it's today or if it's very soon coming up, but wanted to kind of celebrate his accomplishments. Todd has been really important for the what is that, the shopping, the kids shopping program. Shop with the Cop program. He's been absolutely instrumental for that, has been supportive of many other community activities as well. He spent the last 10 years of his career as an investigator in the Major Crimes Division, was with the Lake County Sheriff since 2007, and was also named Investigator of the Year by the California Sexual Assault Investigators Association in 2021. Just wanted to share this appreciation for the hard work that he's provided and the service he's committed to the County of Lake, and want to wish him and his wife and his family the best as they move on into retirement, and thought today would be a good day to honor him for that.
All right. Supervisor Simon, can you lead us in the pledge?
Yes. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Item number 4, consideration of extra items not appearing on the posted agenda. Do we have any of those today from any supervisors? Jessica, I see you on Zoom. Any extra items? No? All right, with that, we'll move forward to our next item, which is approval of the consent agenda. In regards to the consent agenda, these are items that are commonly non-controversial, however, can be pulled for further discussion either at a later time or right away. So it looks like we have Supervisor Sabatier.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to pull item 5.7, 5.11, 5.18, and 5.28 for further discussion.
7, 11, and 18.
And 28.
Oh, and 28. All right. And then let's see here. Okay. Any others from the board? All right. So I'll open it up to the public. Is there anyone from the public that would like to pull? Joan, it looks like you would like to. Can you come to the microphone and please state which item you would like to pull?
5.3,
Okay.
tree mortality. Thank you.
5.3. So 5.3, 5.7, 5.11, 5.18, and 5.28. Are there any others? And any on Zoom, do you see?
Didn't see a hand.
CAO?
Yes, 6.2, I know it's not under consent, but to be continued for a future date.
Okay. Continued. All right.
That's right.
Okay. All right. So from that, bring it back to the board for action. Supervisor Sabatier.
Let me know if I miss anything. Mr. Chair, I move to approve 5.1, 5.2, 5.4 to 5.6, 5.8 through 5.10, 512 through 517, 519 through 527. I move to approve those from the consent agenda.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Johanna, can you please conduct a roll call?
Supervisor Simon?
Yes.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Crandall?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, motion carries. And so we'll come back to those different time frame. We'll now move on to our timed items. Our 9:05, it's 9:06 right now, so we can move on to our public input. Public input is discussion of items that are not already on the agenda. You can speak for 3 minutes about something that you're wanting the public to know, or bring up an issue in your district or area that you live in, and but just know that we can't comment or address that, and we may refer you either to the director or have your supervisor reach out to you. So with that, it looks like we have a couple, and all right.
Good morning, Supervisors. I'm Olga Martin Steele. I am from Clear Lake Oaks, California. I am here to invite you all to the One Team, One Dream Hands Up Lake County Small Business Competition, which is on November 5th. I have invitations that I'd like to turn over to the clerk of the board if I could. And I just got some extras in there in case you want to pass them around. Don't worry about the date that says contact me by the 16th. Just contacted me before November 5th. So I just briefly want to say that we have 8 contestants. We created a new category called the Startup Business category, and then our regular established business categories. And I'm really pleased to say that the entire county is pretty fairly represented. In Lakeport, we have 1. In Clear Lake, we have 2, and the rest are countywide. So thank you for your support of this project, and I hope you can make it. We are asking the chair or the chair's designee to present on stage one of the cash prizes. So hopefully that will work.
Hold a big check.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right. I don't know, is there anyone else that has public input? I do have documents here, but I think it's regarding tree mortality, so we'll come to it at that point. Okay, are there anyone on Zoom that has a public input?
No hands.
All right. With that, we'll close that item and move on to our 6.2, presentation of Blue Point, but we're pulling that. I'll just read it off. Is that okay? Yeah. Presentation of Blue Point planning for the preparation of countywide parks, recreation, and trails master plan will be pulled until, I want to say, a later date.
To a date, yes.
Date to be determined. Okay. And so that's our 9:06. It looks like we have a half hour before we move on to our next. So we will try and knock out some of these others. Consent agenda. Is there any preference?
Up to you.
Well, I think we'll go ahead and do 5.3. Approved continuation of proclamation of existing of a local emergency due to pervasive tree mortality. And so this has been pulled by Joan Moss. If you'd like to come up and discuss why you would like to, and yeah. Please come to the, I see it. I'll come after her. Okay. So I'll open it up to the board first and foremost. If there's any comments or questions about this, or just first before I open it to public input? Nope.
I mean,
Go ahead.
I'll just make a comment for the rest of the public, just in case. I think this needs to be continued. There's work being done in order to try and figure out how we can get support. This seems to have been told to us that this was something we needed to do in order to gain better attention for tackling this issue, and so continuing it helps to continue that conversation. So at least to provide a brief summary as to why this is on here and why I will be approving this.
Okay. Any other comments before I open it up to public? So I'll open it up to the public, for the public. If you'd have I see you have documents here, but please come to the microphone and state your name for the record, and then we'll start your 3 minutes. And I can start that for you, Johanna. I know you're...
Joan Moss, independent journalist and a resident of Wildcat Road. There have been new developments since I last spoke. I want to share them with you. There was noise in the back of my property, and there were Loggers Unlimited preparing to tie a string around my tree. And I asked him to see the order. He showed me the order. I told him the property owners listed is not accurate. It was Mike Bridges and Westfall. The trees were on my property. I went the very next day to Lake County. Sure enough, the property where the trees were on was not Mike Bridges. He'd moved away, and Westfall was the official owner. Then I wanted to question the Atlas people. They're new. And one truck drove by, and he was going to stop and talk.
Mr. Chair, Jonah,
These are specific
But
instances
this-
that Jessica Pyska told me to
this
send to
this
her.
item is to continue
Yes,
the
that's what
emergency
it is.
proclamation. for
Tree mortality. I don't agree with it. I'm asking
for the
Jessica to
proclamation.
pull it. And I want the whole story.
Whether
not
we
just
pull
tree
this or not, the conversation you're trying to have is PG&E has contractors that will continue. This does not affect what the utility is doing. This is our opportunity as a county to do the proclamation and to work with the state and other agencies to help bring.
So that the
And
issues,
Jessica
yeah.
asked us
I just need
to
that line
register our complaints,
very
and that's
Joan,
what I'm doing.
Joan, the other thing is that once this is approved again, you'll have more time to make your complaints and work with the people that are
I'm
trying to help with that.
objecting
And so
to
you don't
tree
want there to be an
mortality.
emergency, is that what you're saying? Or you do?
I have specific instances of misconduct
Okay, so,
I have a
by
suggestion.
the people who are killing the trees.
So my suggestion is that you have every right to provide public comment. I don't think this is connected to the item that you're pulling.
I believe it is.
Well, let me explain to you why.
Pete,
Let me
the
explain to you.
Loggers
let me-
Unlimited.
Joan,
Please.
please,
Hired by
let him
PG&E.
talk and then you can talk.
This is not about PG&E and cutting down trees. Tree mortality is about the drought and trees that are dying because of the drought and the fact that beetles are taking over our trees and killing our trees. That is the specific tree mortality issue. You have an issue with PG&E trying to clear their wires, which I think should be a public comment, public input comment, not a public comment on tree mortality, because that's
I
a whole
am very
different
concerned
subject.
about tree mortality,
So-
and they're killing live trees. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Natasha? And
Hello.
is this the same, or is this?
No, this isn't about, this was supposed to be in the public comment.
So you-
So before, it wasn't supposed to be related to tree mortality.
Okay, well, that's what I thought, because you both.
No,
said that.
no, she's her and I'm me, we're different.
Okay, one second. Ms. Grant, should I open up, let them have their public comments? Would
Yeah,
that
this was
something
supposed
I
to be a
can do?
public comment. I signed over there for a public,
Okay,
Do we need a motion to do that?
all right. So I'm going to close public input on this item for tree mortality,
that's me.
and then
Yeah, I
I'm
didn't-
going to open public input, then I'm going to reopen it, and then you two can have your 3 minutes to speak then. That's what I was just going to do. So I'm closing public input, bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve continuation of proclamation of the existence of a local emergency due to pervasive tree mortality.
Yes, please. And-
Okay, second.
So I have a motion and a second. Johanna, please conduct a roll call for us.
Supervisor Simon,
Yes.
Supervisor Sabatier,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Crandall.
Aye.
Thanks.
And so what I'll do is see if we can get a motion to reopen public input.
Mr. Chair, I move to reopen item, I apologize, I should know the number right off my head.
6.1.
6.1, public input.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Please conduct the roll call, Johanna.
Supervisor Simon,
Yes.
Supervisor Sabatier,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Crandall.
Aye. All right. And so with that, we will open public input again. I've already explained the dynamic of it, and so I see Natasha, you're up at the microphone, so we'll go ahead and start your 3 minutes when you state your name for the record.
Okay, Natasha Robinson. Let's see here. I do agree with Joan that there are abuses going on by PG&E. Right now, there's been 2 weeks of cutting above my neighbor Larry Hill, who's rather ill and elderly. I kind of think it's elderly abuse because they've been cutting down his trees, a lot of them,
without any permission. They did not call him, and they did not come by his house. So I think that's they are definitely abusing their powers of, and property owners are not being respected. As far as treesafety.com, this is for Jessica, you gave me that website. It doesn't exist. It does take me to the main page of PG&E. They do have a complaints section, but in the complaints section, you cannot complain online. They don't offer that service. It's only if you write a letter or if you call them. And I think that's rather scandalous, because if you call them, they can disregard that and later say it never happened. If you have to mail a letter, you have to buy a stamp, get in your car, go down to the post office and mail it. So it's actually quite, it's an inconvenience for most people who have a very busy schedule. So why don't they let you complain online? That's like, we're in a modern age, that remains to be answered. Let's see. Now, this also is to Jessica. I've written a complaint today, and I have, the elderly man has his complaint that he would probably do a lawsuit perhaps, but there's 3 complaints that I submitted today for you to give to PG&E. But I feel like really my complaint is coming to you guys. It's like a fox, chickens, and a farmer. The farmer's supposed to step in and say, hey, there's grievances here, and that would be you guys. You're our representatives. I would hope that you would come out on behalf of the people and the neighborhoods in the mountain that are being violated right now. I'm in favor of cutting dead trees, but they're doing way excessive amount, definitely overstepping what their own policy is and disregarding their own rules. So I come to you guys to say, hey, there's this grievance, there's these violations. I can't as a chicken, because there's the chicken and then there's the fox. How do I go to the fox and say, hey, you're taking my chickens, or I am a chicken, they're the ones creating the crime. It's like me, the victim, going to the criminal saying, darn you, you're robbing me. That's no good. They're not going to listen. I need a representative to step out on the community's behalf and write a letter maybe.
All right. So I have the documents here. I'll give them to Jessica, and we'll go from there. Thank you for your public input.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
I'm not going to be coming in the office today because I'm not feeling well. So I'll need that emailed to me, and I need to have the complaints come from the property owner. It sounds like that's what's happening, but I do want to correct something, because the email address that PG&E gave to us at our September meeting was treesafety@pgne.com. That is the email address to respond to them. PG&E has been invited to the Cawberry Council meeting this Thursday, so that is an opportunity for people to speak directly to them, and that's at 6:30 p.m. at the Little Red Schoolhouse.
All right. Joan? And once you state your name for the record, I'll start your time.
Joan Moss, thank you very much. The only thing I'm going to tell you is that I did get a new phone number from the crew who ran from me, who left the property. But they said if you have a complaint, dial 1-800-PGE 6000, 6000. I had a television camera with me, and they were very uncomfortable with the television camera. And I didn't know how to run it, but they thought I did. And I did forget this one switch, but I did get their voices. And it's going to be part of our documentary, my documentary called Disaster on Wildcat Road. And I am very concerned about the mortality of our trees. I go for the proclamation. I think it's wonderful, but I don't think it's called for to cut down live trees. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, do you see any other online possibly, just in case, since I opened it?
No hands in Zoom.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Sabatier. And it looks like we don't have any other public input. Close that item, and we will move on to the next agenda item, which is, let's do some of these 7 points. It looks like we have a couple of these. 7.2.
I do want to say that we have Scott Harder on line right now, and also, because I know that was one of the items that was pulled.
5.28.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I also see that behavioral health is here, just in case.
Let's do those then, you're right. So we'll go with 5.28, we'll go backwards, authorize special, sitting as the Lake County Sanitation District Board of Directors, authorize special districts, administrator, assistant purchasing agent to issue a purchase order not to exceed $60,000 to Thomas and Associates for the purchase of a Gorman Roop 4 self-priming sewage pump. And if it looks like we have Scott online. Scott, or Supervisor Sabatier, I'll let you start with why you pulled it, and then Scott, if you would like to comment afterwards and give us your insight, that'd help.
So the reason I pulled this is we were missing this attachment that's being shared right now on the screen for both the public and the board. We are requested to consider a purchase order not to exceed $60,000 for a self-priming sewage pump, and I just wanted to make sure that the actual purchase with the details of it were provided to all of us before considering the item. And so Director Harder was able to provide that, and again, it's being shown to us. And I think the top page is really the most important. The rest is minute detail that, to be honest with you, I don't understand enough. Yes.
Okay.
So it looks like that's been added to the agenda as well, so that's good. But I'll let Director Harder speak on if he wants to add anything. I just wanted to make sure and provide the information to both the board and the public.
Sure. Thank you, Supervisor Sabatier and members of the board. As Supervisor Sabatier noted, the backup documentation was inadvertently left off the board memo agenda item. And so we have provided the 4 quotes that we received, ranging in price from about $56,000 to $110,000. And we would ask the board's consideration for awarding it to Thomas and Associates.
Okay. Any other questions? Any other comments from the other Scott? I'm just kidding. I'll open it up for the public. You have 2 screens up there, Scott, so I'm just teasing. Any public input on this item? All right, hearing no other.
And I see none on Zoom.
All right, so we'll bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, sitting as the Lake County Sanitation District Board of Directors, I move to approve the purchase order not to exceed $60,000 to Thomas and Associates for the purchase of a Gorman Rupp 4-inch self-priming sewage pump.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Johanna, please conduct a roll call.
Director Simon?
Yes.
Director Sabatier?
Aye.
Director Paiska?
Yes.
And Director Crandall?
Aye. All right, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Director Harder. Let's see. Is Shane in there as well? Because I think the next one is an IT. Is it IT?
Yeah, I don't see.
So we'll move on. We'll go to 5.7. So we'll move on to item 5.7, which is A, adopt resolution authorizing the agreement between the County of Lake and Advocates for Human Potential for the Department of Care Healthcare Services for the period of April 19, 2022 through December 31st, 2022, and authorize the Behavioral Health Director to sign the agreement, and B, waive competitive bidding in accordance with Section 2-38.2 of the Lake County Code, and C, approve agreement in the amount of $294,000 between COAR Design Group for facility design services and the County of Lake for the Behavioral Health Clear Lake Facility Expansion Project, and authorize the board chair to sign the agreement. Supervisor Sabatier.
So I pulled this for the reasons of Part B, the waiving the competitive bidding. The original company that we worked with to start the design process was, I want to say, it's off the top of my head, 2014. And 8 years later, I feel that there should be a statute of limitations of when we can continue to work with the company versus restarting an RFP. And so I'm in favor of Part A and Part C, but Part B, I have problems with.
Okay.
I think that we should be doing an RFP. And I was told that there's a timing issue, but at the same time, I feel uncomfortable, and I just want to make sure I continue on and be consistent with ensuring that we do our part to make sure that we know who we're giving money to and that we're providing the service and the best benefit to our community with the money we're providing to those companies.
All right. Any other comments from the board? Elise, I see you're on, and so is April. I didn't know who wanted to start out first, but if you had any comments or insight as to this agenda item, please go ahead and unmute and give us that comment.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Supervisor Sabatier, for expressing your concerns regarding this item. Yes, unfortunately, there is a bit of a timing issue. This grant, the award was announced in April of this year, and we began working on the planning. It's a planning grant to be able to apply for larger funding rounds to support infrastructure development. And so we were doing all of the work, and unfortunately, due to delays on the part of the subcontractor, the Department of Healthcare Services subcontracted out grant management services with another company called Advocates for Human Potential. And due to some delays in the communication between the subcontractor and DHCS, we actually didn't see the contract for the grant award until quite recently. And so unfortunately that put us on a bit of an abbreviated timeline because I was reluctant to begin spending money or investing a lot of resources in that without a contract present. So that was my reluctance. And now we are trying to streamline this as fast as we can so that we can be in position to apply for these larger funding rounds for the renovation of the Clear Lake Clinic. So that's what I have.
All right. April, did you have anything to add to that, or, okay. All right, Ms. Grant?
Yes, I would just note that the department cites 238.2, section 2-38.2, which is not in the public interest. There are 3 different qualifiers under that, so you may want to inquire of the department which of those they feel is applicable, just to have it on record.
Okay. Yes, so Elise,
I apologize. I'm not intimately familiar and don't have that pulled up, so.
Ms. Grant?
Yes, it would be whatever the rationale was to waive the competitive bidding, and not in the public interest would be based upon a state of emergency, which I don't believe anything has been stated to address that. The unique nature of the goods or services precludes competitive bidding, or a determination that competitive bidding would produce no economic benefit to the county. So again, it would have to be one of those 3 under 38.2.
Thank you so much, Ms. Grant. So and unfortunately, Lars is not here, Director Ewing. So I believe based on our discussions that it would fall under the 3rd category, that a competitive bidding process would bring no significant economic benefit to the county.
All right. Okay, so any other comments from the board? And so what I'll do is I'll open it up for the public at this time. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this item on the agenda? Not hearing any, I'll bring it back to the board for potential action. So I'm seeing it's a resolution initially on A, a motion on B, and then another motion on C.
So, Mr. Chair, I will offer the resolution.
Resolution has been offered.
Supervisor Simon,
Yes.
Supervisor Sabatier,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Crandall.
Yes.
Thanks.
Mr. Chair, I will move to waive the competitive bidding in accordance with Section 2.38.2 of the Lake County Code.
Is that the,
Due to no economic benefit.
Due to no economic benefit on behalf of the county.
there we go. All right, so I have a motion.
I think I got it right.
Yeah.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Johanna, please conduct a roll call.
Simon?
Yes.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Nay.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Crandall?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, and then C.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the agreement in the amount of $294,000 between COAR Design Group for facility design services in the County of Lake for the Behavioral Health Clear Lake Facility Expansion Project and authorize the board chair to sign the agreement.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Johanna, please conduct a roll call.
Supervisor Simon?
Yes.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Nay.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Crandall?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye. All right, motion carries. And so with that, we will, it's 9:32. So to stay in accordance with what we're doing on our timeline for the agenda, we will move on to our 6.3, which is public hearing of notice of violation and notice of nuisance in order to abate property owner Thomas Carter, location 1622 Hunter Point Road, Upper Lake, APN 022-001-05. And our Community Development Director, Maria Turner, is coming up to be seated and present this item. And I see Code Enforcement Manager Marcus Beltramo on his way up as well. Good morning. Yeah, come on up, Mary Jane and Thomas. I did get a note that it will be continued, but is there still a process we need to go through, or?
There was an email sent this morning from the representative for the appellant requesting a continuance, typically that, which we forwarded to the board and to the clerk, and typically that request is made to your board so you can address it today.
Okay.
Whether or not you open the public hearing is totally up to you. I'll defer to Anita.
Ms. Grant, should we have some of the presentation done, or should we make that determination initially?
It really, I think, would be confusing to the public. If you're going to continue the matter, it makes more sense, I believe, procedurally, to simply continue the matter. And obviously, a request for continuance can come in and be agreed upon by the parties, but it's your board that determines whether to grant it.
It's in my district, and I think it's a good idea. I'm fine with that. So I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
Yeah, I did see the request, and I'm okay with it.
All right. Supervisor Sabatier? Supervisor Pyska, I can't see you in the... All right. So with that, do we need to do any action or anything of that nature? So should I open it up to the public briefly or something like that?
You can open it up to the public with regard to the request to continue.
Okay.
And the request, if your board agrees to approve it, which it sounds as if you will, you do that by motion, and you'll continue it to a time and date certain, since this was already set for public hearing.
So just one question or comment I have. It's asking for the November 8th agenda, so just seeing if we have any vision on what that agenda looks like right now.
Johanna?
Okay.
I think we agreed that all the code items would be at 9:30, so that's like our running time for code,
Okay.
so it can be at 9:30.
Well, thank you for that. So with that, I'll briefly open it to public input for the matter of continuance. And I don't see anybody in the chambers. Actually, I do see somebody. If you'd like to come to the microphone and state your name for the record, it will start your time and go from there.
only regarding the continuance.
Yes.
I think this is a very important item, and I want to make sure the public has access to the agenda materials that are out there. We can read we can read and decide and think in the meantime. Is the material going to be outside? This is unusual because Mary Jane Fagaldi used to be the Community Development Director. And here is Maria Turner and my good friend Tom Carter. This is very
So
important.
you want to make sure that the information's out?
Yeah, can we
Okay.
read it in the meantime?
I'm sure it will be, it's been
available.
posted to
It's
the agenda. It's already been
It's always
made
available.
made available already, so,
Thank you
all right, thank you.
very much. This is unusual.
If I could add to that
Yes.
as well, the request for continuance was based on the appellant's intention to request an estimate of fees that were accurate at that time. And so we already have that. We ran an estimate this morning and have that available. We'll make sure that gets uploaded so the public can view that as well.
Thank you for
There's
that.
public record materials available to the public, right?
Yes, we said that. Thank you. All right, so are there any other people on Zoom?
No, I don't see any hands up at all.
Thank you, Supervisor Sabatier. So with that, I'll bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to continue this item to November 8th, 9:30 a.m.
30, yep. Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Johanna, please conduct the roll call.
Supervisor Simon?
Yes.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Crandall?
Aye. All right. With that, the motion carries, and we will see everyone at November 8th, 9:30.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't believe it would be 5 minutes.
I was thinking the same thing.
Hey, you gonna better knock on wood.
Sorry, sir.
All right. So let's see, it is nice. It's okay. So we'll move on to our 6.4, which is our public hearing, consideration of appeal of notice of nuisance and order to abate for 200 Hoover Street, Clear Lake Oaks, APN number 035-404-180, appellant Brett Hill. With that, we'll go ahead and give the floor back to our Community Development Director and our Code Enforcement Manager.
Just one moment for our tech to catch up to our
Yep.
Okay, I think I unmuted the appellant, Brett. So with your right hand raised, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
There's one additional document that wasn't included that I need to provide a copy to the board. This is from the appellant. Oh, may I approach?
Yes, yes, please. Sorry.
So this is an email from the appellant that we just received yesterday.
Thank you.
Make sure you give one to Joanne.
Good morning to the board. My name is Marcus Beltramo. I'm the Code Enforcement Manager of the Code Enforcement Division in the Community Development Department. Today, we come before the board for a hearing. An appeal was made in regards to a notice of violation and a notice of nuisance in an order to abate that we issued for the property. The subject property here is 200 Hoover Street. That's in Clear Lake, California. The property owner, Brian R. Barrington, trustee of the 2014 Barrington Revocable Trust dated April 9, 2014. And I'd also like to add that this property is situated or located in the Roadmap Task Force area. Our authority to come here before the board today is in Lake County Code Chapter 13, Article 1, Section 13-7.1. When a request is made, a hearing can come before the Board of Supervisors. The board shall proceed to hear testimony of the enforcement official and to review any other pertinent evidence related to the matter. A hearing notice was provided to Brett Hill. In this case, Brett Hill is the appellant. He's the person who is staying on the subject property. Brian Barrington is the property owner. He lives out of county. This notice was mailed and emailed to those based on the information that we had obtained. So the notice was served in accordance with the county code. As we always do, we always start with the property information so we can give proper context. Again, the property address is 200 Hoover Street, Clear Lake Oaks, California. The property owner is Brian R. Barrington, trustee of the 2014 Barrington Revocable Trust dated April 9th, 2014. The zoning of the property is R1, and it does have an overlap of a scenic combining zoning designation. That means it's within close proximity to the highway. The property size is approximately 0.12 acres. There are no improvements on the property. It is a vacant lot. Just for some further context, that's Highway 20. The property highlighted in yellow is the subject property. To kind of give you an idea where it's situated or where it's located, it is in a densely populated area in the Clear Lake Oaks proper area. So we received a complaint of this property. We went out and we assessed the situation. Again, it is a vacant lot. There is a fence that splits the property in half. That fence is towards the rear of the photo on the left. It's towards the rear there. So it's kind of looks like two properties, but it is one property. There's just two sides to that fence. And as you can see on the left, there's a pile of rubbish and debris. Some what you would consider trash. On the right, you see a photo of what is trash. Also located on the property is an RV that's been situated or located on the property for more than 30 days. Based on the information we obtained, this is the RV that the appellant, Brett Hill, is currently occupying and residing in on the property.
I'm not residing there. And also, those are not current photos.
Sir,
this is all being cleaned.
Sir, we'll give you the opportunity to speak once the presentation's over. So
sorry about that.
All right.
And he is correct. These are photos taken on the dates listed on the photos. There has been some. There's been new photos that that reflect a different situation here. On the left, you can see the RV. You can see some screening material. On the right, you can see a pile of trash in the rear. Here's a better picture of the trash, the hazardous vegetation, the RV. And this is the other part of the property. This is the part of the property behind the fence. As you can see, there's vegetation and there's trash and rubbish on this part of the parcel as well. Based on the information, the photographs that were taken, a determination was made that the property is in violation. Several violations were cited. Violations of Chapter 13, Article 1, Section 3.1, Subdivision E5, which means that, the land or the property is being used contrary to Chapter 21, which is the zoning ordinance. E6, E7, E7 is basically garbage, rubbish, and refuse, and weeds on the property. E8, subdivision E8 is unsightly appearance within a scenic corridor. And subdivision E13 is for inoperable vehicles. And then a violation, we also cited a violation of Chapter 21, Article 41, Section 41.2 for open and outdoor storage. Again, the property is zoned for a single-family dwelling. There is no single-family dwelling. That's the primary purpose of this property. Therefore, any storage on the property is considered an accessory use. It's secondary and subordinate to the primary. In this situation, the primary purpose has not been fulfilled or met. And we did issue a notice of violation that allows us to impose administrative fines, and the notice of nuisance order to abate was also issued to abate any issues on the property. We did receive a hearing request again from the appellant Brett Hill. I believe he's present here today. In his appeal, he states as his reason, we have an RV on the property for storage. Also, the lot has been, and this is his words, over with brush, debris, and I am cleaning the lot up for the property owner as it's a fire hazard. Again, the issue for us is the RV has been stored on the property for more than 30 days. Therefore, we believe that's not a temporary issue. We believe that to be a permanent issue, and the RV has not moved from its location since we took the photos initially in, I believe, August. We did receive this email. This is the document that I handed you. We just received this yesterday. I believe this needs to be entered into on the record. I believe this is from Brett, but it came from a Kim Bauer. I believe that to be the mother of the appellant, and she lives across the street on Hoover. I'll just read it. To whom it may concern, my objective to this notice of hearing is this, ! I got full permission from the landlord to vacate and store my trailer for the cleaning of the property up at 200 Hoover Street, Clear Lake Oaks. We didn't put the trailer there not knowing all these codes or if we were violating any. My motorhome is fully contained, it's registered, and it's insured to me. I'm able to move and drive my trailer at any time as the picture will show. Also, the pictures will show that I cleaned up the lot and I still have some work to do. I haven't bothered anybody. My mom lives across the street, and I do stay in her house. She has lived there for 14 years. I feel like code enforcement has been strongly out of control, harassing everybody in the neighborhood, wasting gas, leave in the company's truck running while he's out taking pictures of stuff that is not appropriate or even needs to be addressed, as in my mom's yard sale. She was in capitals. She was in her rights, and he was still taking pictures and harassing her, and if it continues, I will have it in writing. It's out of hand, and I'm sure you'll be here and from a lot more people. The bottom line is, if I'm violating some kind of city or county code, then give me a date and I will move. As I said before, my trailer is in excellent condition, and I'm only doing what I got permission to do. Or if I need to get a permit. Thank you, Brett Hill.
Thank you.
And so basically, that's our evidence. The lot has been cleared of the debris and the trash. The lone remaining issue is the RV that's being stored on a vacant lot. At this time, staff is recommending that the board uphold the notice of violation and the notice of nuisance in order to abate, and to direct staff to move forward with the nuisance abatement procedures. And that concludes our presentation.
Are there any questions from the board before I open it up to the appellant?
Just for purposes of being clear, the abatement you're looking to do is to tow the RV and get it out, because that is the only remaining issue that is on the property?
Yes, at this time, what we are asking the board for approval from the board is to bring the property into compliance and to remove the RV and to restore the property to its original state of a vacant lot. Right now, it's our opinion, or the determination has been made, that the RV is being stored on the lot. Again, it's been there for more than 30 days. We believe that's not temporary. We believe that to be permanent. And if the RV does move, it sounds like a simple resolution to the matter.
I had a question. You might have said this, but Mr. Barrington, has he?
So we've been in contact with Mr. Barrington. We sent him an email with the information. We've spoken to him on the phone. I exchanged voicemails with him. We've been playing a game of phone tag, but he indicated he would not be able to attend this meeting here today. I did not get a reason for that, but we did email him. We did send him the information. We did let him know that he has the opportunity to speak here today. He did, in one of my conversations, state that he gave permission for an individual to stay on the property. He wasn't aware that there was any violations that would be occurring by the individual staying on the property, but he would not be able to attend here today.
All right. It's Brett Hill? Hill? Yeah. Mr. Hill, if you'd like to go ahead and unmute, and we'll take your comments and statement.
He pretty much stated everything in the abatement. I'm not living there. However, I stay at my mom's. Everything that was said in the email pretty much is current. My mother, like I stated in the email, she lives across the street, and she wanted to speak on my behalf.
Not sure what just happened, but while we're...
She wanted to speak on my behalf, if possible.
Did she swear in?
Did she swear? We need her to swear in if that's going to be the case.
Okay. Right hand.
With your right hand raised, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
1 second before you speak, I see Supervisor Pyska. You had a question or a comment. Sorry, I didn't see that.
That's okay. So is the property owner I guess the tenant, have they been made aware that it is a violation to store an RV on a unimproved property?
My understanding from my officers is they made it clear verbally, and in the notice itself, it was made clear that they cannot store items on the property, that it has to be a vacant lot. I think we made repeated attempts to communicate that to the appellant.
And just to add, I see it here on the July 11th nuisance order, or is it the notice of violation order, that it says remove the recreational vehicle from the property as well as the garbage, rubbish, and refuse, and that's dated July 11th.
I wasn't finished.
Oh.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to be clear about that at this moment. But the other thing I'm concerned about, were those telephone lines or cable lines? Because I'm very concerned that someone was living on this property without any utilities or water or sewer or power hookups.
I believe the lines that you're referring to, they appear to be electrical cords, and from speaking with my officers, that's the indication that they gave me. They could not establish that they were connected or plugged in, but those appear to be electrical cords that were laying on the property.
Yeah, okay, thanks. That was my concern. Thank you.
Electrical cords like
extension cords.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Things to hook into the RV to charge it.
Someone else's property or something like that.
I'm not in the to speculate what the purpose of the extension cords were, where they went to, but
they're actually phone cords.
Okay. All right. So, any other questions?
Yeah, can we fix the sound issue? I don't know what's going on, if you're hearing something and talking in two different devices, but every time you speak, Mr. Hill, there's always an echo and a reverb, and I don't know if you have a phone and a computer that's on Zoom.
Okay, tell him we got it.
There we go.
Thank you.
I think it sounds a lot better. All right. So we'll go ahead and, ma'am, if you'd like to speak. Is it?
Okay, I would like to say that, first of all, we do have permission from the owner. My son did get permission from Brian, actually store the trailer. He is fully aware of it. The cord that's hanging over there is a phone line. I do want to say that the first thing I want to say is that when I did go to the county code to help my son file the appeal, Marcus there spent at least 10 minutes to try to talk me out about filing this appeal. Why he did that, I have no idea. So with that being said, I finally filed the appeal. We did get served. And then 3 weeks later, we got this white paper on the fence stating that we have an appeal. But I was just wondering why it took so long to give us the second notice. But anyway, with that being all said, my son's not doing anything. He stays at my house. I've lived here for 14 years. The gentleman never stated to us about, he just said that we were in codes. He didn't specifically say that what we were doing wrong. And then the last thing that really made us upset is Marcus said that if he wins this hearing, that he's going to tow my son's trailer. And I'm like, well, why? You can't really do that until after the appeal, until he wins or you win. So I just want you guys to know that my son's RV, he could start it right now and drive it out of the lot. Right now, he could drive it out of the lot. So I want you guys to know that. And for him to even say that he could just tow his trailer like that, I mean, come on, you can't just tow someone's trailer. You have to give us a notice. They've been very unprofessional. I lived in this town for 14 years and across the street here at this house, and I have never seen code enforcement so out of control in my life. The gentleman has gone to every single house here. He's putting notices on every single fence, even if they don't even live there. The guy is leaving the trucks running, leaving the keys in the car and going around taking pictures. I thought somebody down the road would sure steal one of those trucks someday. And it's just out of control. And something needs to be done. And you guys aren't going to just hear from me. You're going to be hearing from a lot of people. When he was taking pictures of the lot across the street, not only was he taking pictures of my house, taking pictures of my car on the highway, my yard sale sign, everything. Like I said, I've lived in this house for 14 years. I know my rights. I'm allowed to have so many yard sales a year. After that, I have to get a permit.
So,
I already got a permit. I know my rights.
I have a quick question. Are you on this
It's
same
harassment.
property as well? Are you on the same 200 Hoover Street? Are you at that property as well, or are you somewhere different?
So, sir, I live directly across the street, like, what, 20 feet maybe?
Yeah. Okay.
20 feet. And where the place is at, it's Betty's Taco, and then Brian owns the lot behind Betty's Taco, and then it's the previous lot. And we haven't even cleaned up that lot by Betty's Taco because it's out of control. We've only gotten to the lot where the trailer's at. And I'm telling you, like I stated, I've lived here 14 years, and you should see that trailer. My son has done a damn good job cleaning that up over there.
Okay. Well, thank you.
It
And as
looks
much as I
better
would like
than
to talk
most
about
houses
that,
in the area.
as much as I'd like to talk about that other property next to Betty's Tacos, I won't make any comment right now. But is there anything else to add on this, or?
Well, it just makes me very upset that you guys aren't being very professional about this. I think you guys need to address this stuff a little bit differently because people are getting upset. It's harassment.
Social media is going to be going.
And then you guys are going to be posted all. A lady said that she was taking pictures of your driver yesterday, that she was going to put them all over social media because of the way you guys are handling things out here.
Okay. All right. If there's anything else, sir, would you like to add to this, Mr. Hill?
No, that's pretty much well stated.
Okay. So I don't know if you had any comments or anything to add to that.
There is one other issue that I did not address earlier. There is a shed on the property as well that's in violation of the zoning, and that would need to be addressed as well.
Okay.
The shed was on there. It's been on the property since I lived here. We have no idea even what's in the shed.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah, we have we don't even have keys to it.
Just a small wooden shed that's been there for over 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And
The one issue is that our order doesn't address the demo of the shed, so we would have to renotice and go through that process. But it is in violation of Chapter 13, Article 1, Subdivision 13-3.1, Subdivision E5, which means it's in contrary to the use, or Chapter 21, that you have an accessory structure without having a primary structure on the property. But we would have to renotice and go through that process for that shed.
Ms. Grant?
Yeah, it's going to be a separate and apart notice because I don't see a shed listed here. And a notice in order to abate is not all encompassing. So if you get there and see something else, you can also abate that. The other thing, just as a point of clarification, the nuisance in order to abate in the last sentence under sub B of the first paragraph says there's also garbage, rubbish, and refuse beginning to pile up that needs to be removed. I had understood from the hearing that that's been taken care of. If it has, then your board may wish to delete that sentence because it's no longer applicable, if indeed it isn't.
Okay. All right. And so anything else, sir?
I don't have anything further to offer, other than the fact that this property is located in the Roadmap Task Force area. And if an officer, part of the procedures is to go house by house, street by street, to address those issues in that area. Again, the purpose of the Roadmap Task Force is to enhance and improve the living conditions in the Clear Lake Oaks proper area, and that it is a goal that code enforcement's committed to.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Yeah, a couple questions. One, there was a comment about maybe deleting the line for garbage, rubbish. Is that gone?
To my knowledge, it's gone on the parcel where the RV is, but per the statement of Ms. Bauer, it sounds like on the other side of the fence, there's still a pile that needs to be addressed.
Would it be possible to amend it to there may also be garbage? That way, if there is, we can abate it, and if there's not, then there's nothing to abate?
No.
It needs to be.
No, because that evidence just came, if it is indeed evidence, came forward today. So, again, there's a due process concern with these things.
But the pictures from August do show garbage piles on both properties.
And it's not two properties, it's one property.
Both sections of the same property.
So it's the same property, one's across the street from the other?
No. There's a fence that splits the property in half.
Okay.
And the pictures did show a garbage pile on one side and a garbage pile on the other side of the fence.
Then the notice.
Yeah, but they're different addresses.
How is that possible?
I don't know. I called the county and they told me that the one by Betty's is First Street and then the one where the trailer is 200 Hoover Street. So I don't know. I'm just telling you what information the county told me. So yeah, they are two different addresses that they stated.
The notice of violation, Mr. Chair, indicates one address and then one parcel number. So if it's split in any way, perhaps code enforcement confirmed.
Can I pull up the PowerPoint again so I could show you the map of the property?
Yes, please.
Yeah. This 165 and out. Yep.
Yes, sorry.
Can you please mute while we go through this process, and then when you're ready to make a comment, just unmute at that time?
So, as you can see, the highlighted parcel is the parcel that's in question, and that's where the issue's occurring. Betty's Tacos occupies the parcel that's next to or butts the highway.
Right.
So I'm not sure what we're referring to here. I believe we've identified the correct parcel, and the issues occurring are attributed to this address, the 200 Hoover Street address. I believe we've...
And that has a fence in the middle of that, in whatever's encompassing the yellow?
Bifurcates the two sections.
Okay. So it's not the parcel that's to the, from us, right of it, that's just a whole different parcel?
The right of it's a whole different parcel.
Okay, that's what I thought. Ms. Grant?
your board may want to inquire and ensure that it's the same owner then if it's just one single parcel.
Based on our research, it's one owner, the Brian
Mr. Barrington.
Barrington Revocable Trust of April 9, 2014.
Supervisor Sabatier.
And so, thank you for that. My second question is to Mr. Hill. If your RV does work, and since July 11th, we've been asking for your RV to not be in a violation of our code, which is to place an RV or any vehicle or storage sheds or things like that on a vacant lot without a house, I just hope that you have a good plan of where to put your RV, because it can't just also go anywhere either. There needs to be a good plan for that. So it's not a question, it's more of a statement that RVs need to be placed in the appropriate locations, and hopefully you have a plan for that. But we have here evidence that we have been asking to have the RV removed very explicitly in the paperwork since July 11th, and if it's a good working order, I'm kind of curious as to why that has not happened. I guess that's kind of a rhetorical question, but I'm done.
Mr. Hill, do you have an answer for that? Hello?
Hello?
There you go. Do you have an answer for that question? All right. Not hearing anything, so.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi. So, sorry, my phone's giving me trouble. So this is Kimberly Bauer again. So to make a long story short, like I stated before, if my son's in violation, I have all this property over here. He is able to park the trailer over here. We got permission for him to store it over there, so it wouldn't be right here. And that's where we went ahead and stored the trailer. If not, it will be towed out today and parked right over here.
I thought it was in working order.
It is.
Okay, so you said that
It will,
you would tow.
Did I say towed? I meant drive. I'm sorry.
Okay.
No,
And that's the thing,
If he has to move the
just-
trailer, it will be moved in one day.
Okay, here's the other thing is, you mentioned you had permission from the owner, yet it's still a code violation. So, I mean, I can give permission to anybody about something. However, as long as it's, if it's against the code, then it's not a permissible act, and it could be a violation. So just wanted to let you know that.
I don't understand what you said.
What I said was, what I basically said, ma'am, is that even though you have permission from the owner of the property, does not make it, does not excuse the violation. Do you understand that?
Okay.
Okay.
Right. No, I understand, and that's why we're here, because we don't know. We don't know the codes, you know what I mean? We don't understand all these codes in city and all that. So
Right.
that's why we're here. For
Okay,
you guys
and-
to
and
decide if
just-
we're in violation.
And sometimes it might behoove anyone that has a situation as such to do the proper thing that's been asked first, and then ask from another standpoint if that's a proper violation or something of that nature. So I don't know if there's any other questions or anything of that nature.
I have my hand up.
All right.
If we can take this down, then you can see me better and have my
Oh,
hand.
sorry.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Vice Chair Pyska. I need to get my computer up so I can.
Yeah, so, I mean, we have not heard from the property owner. The property owner has been noticed. The people that are speaking today are neighbors. So, no, the property owner needs to understand that they can't have these violations on their property. So, yeah, the RV cannot be there. It cannot be stored there. We can't be any more clear than that. But ultimately, this conversation should be happening with the property owner.
Yeah, because we had no idea.
Okay. You didn't receive the July 11th violation letter?
So,
Just go ahead.
Go ahead,
Marcus,
Supervisor.
before I-
so the notices are mailed to the property owner based upon the county records that we can listed with the county, and then we also post a notice at the property, but those notices address the property owner. I believe when the notice was posted at the property, the appellant did see the notice at that time, which prompted them to issue or file a request for this hearing today. So it's without that notice, I don't see how they would not know to file an appeal.
Okay. Supervisor Simon?
No, I just wanted that clarification that the property owner was noticed. I think you made a statement earlier that you spoke with him on the phone and he could not make it here today. So I just wanted to clarify that issue, that the property owner was noticed on this issue.
The property owner was noticed. We emailed him the information as well. We've dealt with this property owner in the past on other properties that he owns in this county. I did have a conversation with him where he did express that he gave permission, but he was not aware that the situation would be in violation of the county code. And again, property owner's permission does not trump the county code.
Vice Chair Pyska, I see your hand up.
You're on mute.
Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute. There you go.
Okay, so I don't know what the notice of appeal that keeps getting referred to is, but it's not coming from the property owner, it's coming from a neighbor, is that correct?
Well, the neighbor is the mother to the tenant.
Yeah, not coming from the property owner, and that's who it should be coming from.
Anyone can file appeal, right?
Go ahead.
Possibly Council Grant could probably better opine on this matter here, but our policy right now is anybody that has an interest or is a property or has property ownership, we will entertain those appeals.
Okay.
I mean, we feel justified in our evidence and the investigation that we did that we can substantiate a violation, and we feel providing due process is not a burden.
Ms. Grant?
Thank you. And providing due process wouldn't be a burden even if they couldn't substantiate the grounds for the nuisance. It just exists. It's a constitutional requirement. In this case, someone who's going to be affected by the action, it's perfectly appropriate for them to file an appeal.
All right. Okay. Any other comments? No? And because it's a hearing and we swore people in, I don't have to open it up to any other public, or should I do that too? So is there anyone else that would like to comment on this item? And if so, we'll probably need to swear you in as well. Okay, if you would please raise your right hand and...
With your right hand raised, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
All right. Please come to the microphone and state your name for the record.
And for the record, there was a nod for yes. Since the cameras can't see her.
John Moss, I've watched these hearings for a long time. I remember a Lake County supervisor who cried during one of these hearings. I want to know, in the past, as long as there was progress made, there was another 30 days that the supervisors gave them to solve the problem. And I wanted to know if that might be, there has been progress made, and I was wondering if the woman said she's going to remove the trailer today, if maybe you could have a continuance of this and see if there's improvement in another 30 days. And secondly, I wanted to know how much her appeal cost. For my own personal reasons, is this a different kind of appeal? Or does it also cost $1,000 to appeal your decision? Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, don't know if there's an answer.
Do I answer that?
No.
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 Okay.
So there was no...
All right. Do you guys want to hear that answer the question, or? I don't.
No.
No. Okay. If there's no, Ms. Grant?
I can, if your board likes to speak to the fact that your board has previously denied the appeal and issued the order with a caveat that it would be deferred for 30 days to allow, or deferred for 10 days or whatever. Your board has always had that authority, which of course you know.
All right. All right, Supervisor Sabatier?
I think I wanted to just kind of be clear. Sorry, I'm going back to the garbage comment on the abatement. Since we have pictures that there was garbage there, we're being told that there is still garbage there from the appellant. At this point, we leave it as is. If there is garbage, it will be abated. I just kind of want to make sure, because I didn't feel like we really cleared that up to make it final before we make some kind of decision. And I'm looking at Ms. Grant for the answer to this.
If there is garbage, refuse, debris that's been identified in the notice, and it exists on the property under this parcel number belonging to Mr. Barrington, who's listed as the owner, then yes, it can still be left on the notice. If it turns out the property is a separate parcel or belongs to someone else, et cetera, then no.
Absolutely.
All right. Is there any other public input on this item? I have Zoom, but I don't have my...
Oh, I do see that Brett's Moto G Power has a hand up, but I'm not sure if that was a previous hand up or if that is for a new statement.
I'm sorry about that. I lower my hand now.
Okay. All right, so close public input at the time and bring it back for further discussion or action. Go ahead, Supervisor Sabatier.
I'm kind of looking at you, Chair Crandall, since this is your district, what kind of timeline? Because I think within 24 hours, within 48 hours, or whatever code enforcement deems appropriate time to be able to go back out there and assess the situation. Sounds to me like it's easy to move.
Yes, it is.
I would love for that to have already been done. Since July 11th, it was very clear as to what the request was, and more than 30 days has been provided since July 11th to October 18th. And I just kind of wanted to see what your thoughts were on possibly having a timeline to conclude this.
It's a tough one. If it's not a burden to the Code Enforcement Department, 24 hours, but then we still have the full week to bring it back, right? I mean, that's the issue. No?
No, we can make a decision to continue with the abatement if within 24 hours it has not been vacated.
All right.
I believe that's what we were discussing as a caveat for our decision made today. And I would be in support of that if you think 24 hours is a good time.
I'm still, the only thing I really wish is that, I know that it's stated that anybody can make an appeal. I really wish that Mr. Barrington was present because or at least on Zoom or on the call. I think that would be helpful, but you're stating that he was notified and said he just couldn't make it, and...
Well, honest, can I speak?
Ma'am, I'm not speaking
minute?
with you. I'm talking to Marcus.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Mr. Barrington, I guess that was more of just me talking, is saying that you had reached out to Mr. Barrington, he knows about the date, couldn't make it. Is it more of a thing where he wasn't concerned with it? He's just like...
Again, his statement to me was that he did give permission, but he was unaware that providing that permission to allow someone to stay or store items on the property he did not believe it, or was not aware that it was a violation of the county code. So he gave his permission, but again, he was unaware that it would be in violation of the county code. That was his statement to me on the phone.
Ms. Grant?
Of course, the property owner is going to be responsible for any costs that are incurred by the county in the cleanup. So that goes to the garbage, refuse. If the county has to go out and tow the vehicle, that would include that. So the property owner will be responsible. So if he's determined not to attend, he does that essentially at his own legal risk.
Yeah. So did I hear you, do you have another statement to make? Okay. So I think, Supervisor Sabatier.
And just to kind of dig a little further in what you're saying, we're obviously having a conversation with somebody who is not the property owner. There's the potential of assessing a fine or assessing someone's property who's not here. And maybe the question for Mr. Beltramo should be, is he refusing to be here or unable to be here? Because maybe at that point a continuance in order to respect the property owner, to have that conversation with them, to make sure that we're not dealing with
Right.
a tenant issue versus actually dealing with the property. I mean, I'm ready and willing to move forward, but I think you do bring up a good point that that the property owner has not been given the ability to represent themselves, and we moved, if they're unable to.
I think he has, it's just that he's not here.
We mailed the notices to him. We emailed him the packet for here today with all the attachments. We let him know that, we mailed the notice was mailed out, I believe, more than 2 weeks in advance. So he did, and we did let him know he could appear via Zoom or do an e-comment or provide a statement. We did let him know that. But we will obviously follow the wishes of the board here today. I would like to reiterate, there is a simple solution here.
If he just moves it.
Move the RV, clean the trash off, and we're in a good place. Compliance has been attained, and I believe that to be the simplest solution and the the path of least resistance to compliance here.
Ms. Grant?
I hate to complicate matters further, but it's my understanding that the people who made this appeal's only contribution to this is the parking of the RV.
Right. Right, and so,
So the garbage and refuse would still be the responsibility of the owner, who's apparently been duly notified of the abatement action.
so I think if they move it within 24 hours, if they don't, I think then we can move forward from there. As like it was stated, I think I'm okay with that.
The garbage and the refuse, is there a timeline for that?
Ms. Grant, I think you...
If your board determines to deny this appeal, there was no appeal by the property owner as to any of the remaining actions. So at this point, that can simply go forward. I think that your board is going to deny the appeal, but allow, I believe you said 24 hours to allow the Hills to move the RV that had been placed upon a portion of the property, and that's really all you're doing. But as far as the overarching violations and moving forward with the abatement, your board will affirm that today.
All right. And if they don't move it, what happens at that point?
If they don't move it within the 24 hours, then your board will dictate that. I'm assuming you'll direct staff to move forward with abatement.
Okay. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. All right. Supervisor Sabatier?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move to deny the appeal of notice of nuisance and order to abate within 24 hours if the RV has not been removed, all the nuisances that have been listed on the notice of violation. And I'm kind of giving a side eye to Ms. Grant to make sure that that was correctly done. That's good, okay.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Joanna, please conduct a roll call.
Okay, Supervisor Simon?
Yes.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Crandall?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right.
If we could just get additional clarity, please. There's not been any discussion regarding the notice of violation and the assignment of fines for that.
The notice of violation and the assignment of fines that were listed on the first violation, is that what you're saying?
So we issued a notice of violation and a notice of nuisance in order to abate.
Isn't that a separate thing to assess those fines at the end when things are completed, rather than now?
Well, so there's an issue.
Go ahead.
Can you pull up the PowerPoint again, please? The code, for a request for a hearing, the code directly addresses a notice of nuisance in order to abate. It does not directly reference a notice of violation, but we posted a notice of violation and a notice of nuisance in order to abate. There are two different mechanisms to perform two different actions, one to impose fines and the other to abate the issues. I guess we're seeking clarity here today. Obviously, we're getting clarity on the order to abate. The notice of violation is still outstanding, and we're in a position to
Implement administrative fines?
issue a citation, an administrative citation.
Okay. And I'm fine with that, considering that you've asked and they haven't complied to that measure. Does that make sense? And is that something that we can conduct today, Ms. Grant?
I just don't see it in the,
It's up here.
it's on the back side.
So in the code section, a hearing before the Board of Supervisors regarding a notice of nuisance in order to abate. So the code directly addresses the order to abate, but does not address the notice of violation. I figure,
But I don't see a notice of, I see a notice of violation, but it doesn't say, because I've been through your paperwork, you and I have worked together on this. I don't see one that states here are the violations and these are the costs. It doesn't have anything in there that says
so that would be in the citation itself.
Yes, I don't see a citation that was submitted to the property owner or placed on the fence or.
So the notice of violation is the first step in the process. We were waiting for the outcome, pending the outcome of the hearing here today, to issue the citation. Okay. The citation would have all the statutory information that's required and then the amount of the fine. So we were waiting for the outcome here today before we proceeded with the administrative citation. And the code directly in the first sentence only references a hearing for a notice of nuisance in order to abate. So we're just seeking clarity if we can move forward with the administrative citation or if there's another avenue or other information about how we should proceed.
Supervisor Sabatier? Or actually, Ms.
And
Grant?
I think Ms. Grant will probably have better words to share than me.
I think that the documentation here as to the notice of violation, which does exist, but again, if the violation is the recreational vehicle and the vehicle is going to be moved within the next 24 hours, your board may not wish to issue a violation. And again, the violation, the notice went out to the property owner, so the notice of violation will be against the property owner. If at this point your board, because you're denying the appeal and there was no appeal by the property owner, if you want to move forward with the violation process, you may do so. If the gravamen of the violation here is the RV and you're giving time to have that moved, then you may not. It depends upon how you're viewing the process at this point.
I'm all for moving forward. I think we need to set the standard of here is a notice of violation, take it seriously, what are we doing about it? We've been waiting 3 months, 4 months, the 30 days have gone on and on and on. And both, especially the owner, who is the responsible party for what occurs on their property, has not seemed to take any action. And I think that this is something I've been asking for you guys to do, and today I'm not going to deny that we need to move forward with that, because people need to recognize when we're asking you to meet our code, we really need you to meet our code. And if it's not done within a certain amount of time, that violations, citations will occur.
Ms. Grant?
And just to clarify, this notice of violation again goes to the property owner. The people who are making use of the property have no part of this.
All right. All right. Any other comments or, okay. Did you want to?
I don't think I need to change my motion for the fact that it's just a part of the process outside of this appeal, because this was our violations in existence. Yes, keep moving forward. And so I would say the citations is just another step in your process. Okay.
All right. Okay. Is there anything else on this? All right. So let's close this item. Let's see. Move on to our next. But in the meantime, we will go ahead and take a short break. And that way I can get clarification as to, I see we have the hearings for the assessment appeal hearings, but then we have an 8 or a 10:30 here. Wanted to see with staff what we should do after the break from there. Assessment appeals? Okay, so we will take a short 5-minute break and then move on with the assessment appeals and then come back after the assessment appeals to 6.5. All right. All right. Looks like we're back from our break. We'll go ahead and move on to our item 8, assessment appeal hearing, sitting as the Board of Equalization. In that, we'll start with 8.1, consideration of request by the Lake County Assessor's Office to continue the following assessment appeal applications 03-2020 through 10-2020, Earthways Foundation Incorporated, a Delaware nonprofit corporation, to the May 2nd, 2023 Board of Supervisors meeting. And with that, it looks like we have the Assessor's Office present, Assessor Rich Ford and Dave Schwinger.
So just want to do a quick introduction. Thank you for your time this morning. As you've seen in the past, we are now trying to schedule this twice a year, this being our October appeals, and then we'll do one in May. Just for future, Dave is the one who's actually in charge in our Office of Appeals. So basically what I'm going to do is hand this off to Dave for training purposes, and also because that's his responsibility. I'm here for support and answer any additional questions, but I will pass it on to Dave.
Did you have something, Ms. Grant?
If your board needs any type of information about the standard procedure, I'm happy to review that with you briefly. If you're comfortable, then I'll.
Yes, please, please.
Okay. You've already convened as the local Board of Equalization. With regard to the appearance of the property owner or the appellant, when that is applicable, if an item is taken up and the appellant's not here, then your board should always inquire as to notice. The hearing procedures themselves, it's generally just standard hearing procedure, testimony under oath. An assessment appeal hearing is not subject to Brown Act requirements, so no public testimony needs to be taken. There is a burden of proof depending upon whether it is a residential owner occupied. I don't think you're going to have issues with that today. So again, it's essentially the standard hearing practice. The burden of proof does determine who goes first. When it is an owner-occupied residential property, that person presents their case first. In all other circumstances, generally speaking, the assessor will present first. These are largely procedural items. You've got withdrawals, continuances, and some claims as to untimeliness.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Anita.
All right.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Dave Schwenger, and for the first issue, 8.1, we are withdrawing the continuance and are requesting a stipulation. We're presenting to the board, Johanna, as a stipulation between the assessor's office and the applicant. The applicant provided a contract, which the property is pending sale. That we feel is the highest and best use of the property and market value. So the stipulation is taking that value back to the original transfer date and offering it to the board to be stipulated, and we'll do roll corrections and reissue those bills.
All right. Supervisor Sabatier?
Sorry about that. I have two questions. One is for Ms. Grant. The fact that we kind of advertised to the public that there was a request to have a continuance and that now we are doing something different, is that within our scope of making that change on the agenda on its face?
Yes, these hearings do not have to be Brown Act compliant, so this has the same flexibility that any other quasi-judicial hearing would have without the need for specific notice. The item itself, the property involved, is all on the agenda.
Okay. And then my second one, I know that there was already a continuance from before. Do you know, Mr. Schwinger, what date it was extended to?
The continuance was extended to this date.
Okay,
the
this
first one
specific
from the
date.
applicant, and they waived their right for the 2-year statutory limitation to be heard. So that was a waiver. It's already signed. So with this, we can complete the assessment appeal and move forward. And this would also, since it is a supplemental assessment, changes the base year value. So for this point, from the point of transfer to the current tax bill would all be corrected by this appeal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? And so with that, I don't have to open it up to public on this one, so I guess we're ready for action on this one? Or with the statement made, it's already conducted. I just want to make sure.
Yes, I believe a copy of the stipulation's been made available to you. Okay. As long as that has been and your board has no further questions, then you may simply approve it by motion.
All right. I'll entertain a motion.
I'm going to take a shot at it then. Mr. Chair, I move to approve the assessor's stipulation for property or rule. Would that be all right just there, or do I need to?
I think you can just say for the property described in 8.1 on
Okay.
the agenda today.
For the property described in item 8.1 today.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Johanna, please conduct a roll call.
I think you guys are commissioners now. So Commissioner Simon?
Yes.
Commissioner Sabatier?
Aye.
Commissioner Pyska?
Yes.
And Commissioner Crandall?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Motion carries. We'll now move on to 8.2, consideration of request by the appellant to continue the following assessment appeal applications number 68-2022 World Mark to the May 2nd, 2023 Board of Supervisors meeting. With that, I'll give the floor back to Dave.
Yes, this is Appeal 68-2020 for World Mart. They already did a continuance once, and you're allowed by Property Tax Rule 323 to do one appeal without contestant. The second one or third has to be approved by the board. We'd actually asked the board to deny this, and we usually don't do this, but we can't get any communication with the taxpayer, and they're all protective appeals. So these are just kind of going into limbo. So we would ask that at this point that they've already got their one continuance and they're not doing anything to move the case forward. So there's no cause at this point for a continuance.
All right. Is there any questions on that, Supervisor Sabatier?
And I'll just share my slight concern. The numbers are vastly different between the assessor's office appraisal and the belief of the value of the property that the property owner has. But we just saw a stipulation that we just approved where there was quite a gap as well, and what we approved was a lot closer to what the appellant had appealed for. And there was a difference of almost $5 million just in the last one that we did. There's a difference of almost $10 million, and a part of me is concerned that is there maybe a similar situation where we are looking at things through a different lens of what highest and best use might be for that property versus what is actually eligible for the property based on the property owner's belief. And this would be an absolute burden on top of a business that I want to make sure that we don't place the wrongful burden on property taxes. So that's, I don't know if I'm expressing myself correctly.
Yes, I can explain that. So for World Mart's original value was their sales price. They enrolled, it was base year value, that's not contested. Back in 2014 or 15, they started these appeals where they went on a different valuation to say this is a seasonal resort that's only should be counted by the occupancy in the summer. So that doesn't really apply to this case. The other case was a sale that we didn't accept the sales price and that we went through a process to find out what that sales price should have been. So they're two different aspects. So the base year value is their base year value, and that's what they're being taxed at. They're saying there's an occupancy issue, that this should be modeled as a seasonal resort. And our view is it's occupied year round, so it's not closed during the winter. That's basically the thing. That's why it's never come to the hearing, because when you show the occupancy, it's a year-round occupied property.
And so just for clarification, this was based on the sale of the property, the last sale of the property is what we have, our base, and then it's been increasing by a maximum of 2% per year based on Prop 8. This is not a reevaluation of the property or revaluation or anything else that may have triggered that.
That's correct. It's a Prop 13 value from the original sales price that increases annually statutorily by 2%, or the consumer price index, whichever is less.
Right. And there was no appeal based on the original?
No, they accepted the original base year value. That's not being contested.
So it looks like there's someone with their hand up, Debbie. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. If you have your hand up, could you please unmute? I don't know if you're representing this item on the agenda or another one. If you could please clarify that for us.
So Chairman Crandall, this is Matthew. Ms. Deutsch did drop off of the meeting following the last item.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. And so bring that back. And Ms. Grant?
The only thing before your board gets too far into substance, since there was a hearing, a request for a continuance, and certainly the assessor's entitled to say it doesn't agree, but again, the decision is completely yours. The hearing date, the request for the continuance is because the owner agent indicates that they're unable to attend on the date specified. So if your board finds that that's good cause to continue, you can certainly do so. If it falls afoul of the 2-year time frame or another deadline, then the assessor's office would have to speak to that. But it's up to you whether you wish to continue it to a date certain or if you wish to move forward. But again, the basis for the continuance is not because the property owner just didn't show up. It's they state they're unable to attend.
Okay. Well, anything else to add, Dave, on that, or Rich?
No, it's at the board's discretion. You can apply, you can approve it or to the later date, and we can go and we'll probably put the 21 with that appeal also, because that will be up. So we would be hearing the 2021 also at that time. They do appeal every year.
Okay. I know it's in my district. I'm fine with that. If they want to, push it out, I'm okay with that, since it was listed that they couldn't make it and they would like to be able to make it. I'm okay with that. But I don't know how the rest of the board feels, and if there's action to be taken, someone can make a motion and we'll go from there. There's not any other comment on it.
I'm looking at the... I have a question for Mr. Schwinger. I appreciate that you kind of gave us the history that it was evaluated or appraised originally upon the last purchase, and that it's been growing incrementally based on statutory law. Is there ever is there something within the code that allows them for saying that the value has decreased, that something has occurred that decreases the value? I know we've done that for fires, for example.
Oh, no, the Prop, you can always say, so when they passed Prop 13 in 1978, they never put in the fact that there might be a recession. So shortly in the 80s, we had a major recession. All these properties went below their base year value. The market value was less. So they made a law that says if you can determine the market value is less than the base year value, then they get the market value. Absolutely.
Okay. And maybe that's a request, is bring evidence of market value rather than just an appeal form, because it sounds to me like we don't have that evidence.
Correct. Yeah.
If given the
We just have the appeal. We have no appraisal, no valuation information from them, just that it should have been valued as a springtime open resort instead of a year-round resort.
All right, thank you for that. Rich, if you'd like to.
I just want to chime into just one of the statements that Bruno said. With our office for appeals and pretty much anything you have a question with, if you bring us information that we can use, if you bring us quantitative information that will help us understand why it should be valued higher or lower, needs to be on a Prop 8 or otherwise, we always accept it. But it needs to be something that we can basically use. So kind of very similar to what you just said. I just want to make sure that's very clear. Thanks.
Thanks. So I think if there's action.
I guess my only comment obviously is this is a very large property. I think we all know where it is on the, we do know that it is not seasonal. It's year round. They're constantly being used or folks are there. So for me today, if a motion is made, I'm probably, I don't agree with the extension of the appellant, or to continue it. It's a very important issue. I think they should be here, so. I don't have a reason why they can't make it. I don't know, but.
So I make a motion to continue the following assessment appeal applications, number 68-2022 Worldmark, to the May 2nd, 2023 Board of Supervisors meeting, with the anticipation of receiving market value information for that meeting so we can have a good substantial conversation.
I don't know if, I think I can second, can I? Or I'll second.
You can pass the gavel or?
Yeah, I'll pass the gavel to chair, the virtual chair, vice chair. So I'll second that motion.
Okay, so Commissioner Simon?
No.
Commissioner Sabatier?
Aye.
Commissioner Crandall?
Aye.
And Commissioner Pyska?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, and I'll accept the gavel back from that item and move on to 8.3. Consideration of withdraw on the following assessment appeal applications: A, number 5-2021 Charles E. Billig, TRS, and B, number 6-2021 Lakeshore Drive LLC, and 9-2021 Transform SR Holdings Management LLC, and D, number 1-2021 03-2021 Geysers Power Company LLC. And Dave?
Yeah, no, these are all withdrawals. Most of these were protective appeals, protecting their rights, which is a standard. So they went over their information, were fine with the values, sent in to Johanna the withdrawal forms, and they're concluded just with the board's blessing.
All right. Any discussion on these? All right. There's any action to be taken? All right.
One at a time, I take it?
No, most of these don't actually even need your approval, but you can certainly do it
as a group?
As a group, just all of those individual properties listed under 8.3 of the board's agenda this date, your board accepts the withdrawals.
So moved.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Johanna, please conduct roll call.
Commissioner Simon?
Yes.
Commissioner Sabatier?
Aye.
Commissioner Pyska?
Yes.
And Commissioner Crandall?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. 8.4, consideration to deny the following assessment appeal applications on timeliness as no request for hearing received. A, number 02-2021 Norman Winters trustee, and B, number 8-2021 Patricia Gage. Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, so they didn't respond that there would be hearings, so we didn't prepare for them. I did speak with Mr. Winters at the time when he filed his assessment appeal. He bought the property from his neighbor and felt we should enroll in the sales price. It's 0.47 acres on the lake. The other one we used $25,000 for the value based on another lake. The other one, Patricia Gage, she said she would not be appearing today, but she had an issue that we are addressing for her with a tree damage to her house. So we would ask these be denied since we were not prepared for these, and they didn't respond to the board, Johanna, that they would be appearing.
All right, any questions on this? Ms. Grant?
Your board may wish to inquire just to ensure that none of the property owners for any of the properties listed are present today.
Yes, and so is there anyone online or in the chambers that's present on either one of these properties? I don't see any hands up either, so I'll bring it back to the board. Correct.
And in this case, Mr. Chair, you will have to take them both separately.
Okay. All right. So on the matter of A.
On the matter of A, Mr. Chair, I move to deny assessment appeal number 02-2021, Norman Winters trustee.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Johanna, roll call, please.
Commissioner Simon?
Yes.
Commissioner Sabatier?
Aye.
Commissioner Pyska?
Yes.
And Commissioner Crandall?
Aye.
Thank you.
And number 2, I move to deny the assessment appeal, application number 08-2021, Patricia Gage.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Johanna, roll call, please.
Commissioner Simon?
Yes.
Commissioner Sabatier?
Aye.
Commissioner Pyska?
Yes.
And Commissioner Crandall?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we will now move on to our 8.5. Consideration of stipulation on the following assessment appeal, applications number 07-2021, Bach Tiara, Deborah Ann T.E., and Carl Eric T.E. Dave?
Yes, we worked with the applicant's agent. We came to a resolution on this. We agree that that's market value if they were willing to sell it at this time. And we ask that the board accept the stipulation for their temporary reduction in value.
All right, thank you on that. Any questions? All right. And there an action for accepting the stipulation?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to accept the stipulation of the following assessment appeal, application number 07-2021, Bakhtiara, Deborah Ann, and Carl Eric.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Johanna, roll call, please.
Commissioner Simon?
Yes.
Commissioner Sabatier?
Aye.
Commissioner Pyska?
Yes.
And Commissioner Crandall?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. And that concludes the assessment appeal hearings. Mr. Schwinger and Assessor Ford, thank you very much for presentation and getting through these and the work you've conducted on these as well.
Great, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thanks for your time this morning.
All right. With that, we'll move back to our timed items, which was 10:30 a.m. Item 6.5, public hearing, consideration of proposed rezone RZ 22-02 and negative declaration IS 22-19, applicant Daniel Sosa, project location 3774 and 3794 East Highway 20 Nice. With that, our Community Development Director, Maria Turner, will, and it looks like Mr. Porter, Eric Porter, Associate Planner, will present this item.
I'll just go ahead and pass it over to Associate Planner Porter for the presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, Supervisors. This is a continued item. There was a bit of a cleanup needed on the ordinance. And so we're back before you for consideration of a rezone. Property is located at 3774 East Highway 20 and 3794 East Highway 20. The current zoning is CHDR. What's being proposed, you can go to the next slide, Mira. What's being proposed is to rezone it to C2. The purpose for the rezone would be to enable cannabis sales, which are not allowed in the CH zone. So no general plan amendment is required. And just a point of interest, I checked the codes. There is a maximum of 4 general plan amendments that the county allows in a calendar year. There is no maximum on rezones and no general plan amendments required on this one. So to get back to the details of the project, site consists of 2 lots. They total 0.64 acres. Currently holds the Nice Cafe and Market. And again, they want to convert it to a retail cannabis facility, which is not allowed under the CH zoning. The overall area, and this is relevant, this project does not represent spot zoning, and the reason for that is because the area to the east and southeast is already zoned C2. So it would effectively change these 2 lots into C2 zoning. Some of the neighbors in the R1 district have expressed concern, and I believe the letters of concern are in your packets under Exhibit 5D, I believe. Right. We evaluated the general plan. It's not changing, so it's not really that relevant. So it's currently community commercial, which is typical for C2, but not necessarily typical for CH. However, this particular 2 properties are already designated as community commercial in the general plan, therefore no general plan amendments required. There are a few policies that relate to economic strengthening, and this is one of them, to promote development of diversified economic base by continuing to promote commerce. And I indicated that there will be up to 6 employees, is my understanding, once this zone change has occurred and the retail cannabis use is up and running. Subject sites within the Upper Lake Nice urban plan's boundary, so it's held to the Upper Lake Nice area plan, which is silent on rezoning, so there was no conflict. There was just nothing directly related to this proposal. Uses allowed, I indicated that cannabis is an outright use in the C2 zone, but it is not in the CH zone under the current zoning. Continued, Article 47 lists general processes that are required for a rezone. It can be done by the board, subject to the Planning Commission's recommendation. We did do an initial study, but there's no development proposed. The initial study resulted in a negative declaration with no mitigation measures. Planning Commission held a hearing on July 14th and voted 5-0 to recommend approval of the rezone to the board. Again, this had come before the board, I want to say in August, I don't remember the date, and we needed to amend the ordinance, which has been corrected. So our recommendation is that the board adopt negative declaration IS 22-19 and to approve rezone RZ 2202. And that concludes my presentation, unless there are any questions.
Any questions? I do have one. Did they, was there any notification about a bus stop nearby from the local schools? Was there any discussion about that?
I don't think it ever came up. The use itself was never in question. It was more a matter of, is this the right thing to do? And so we didn't look at an extensive list of what uses could be allowed. The only reason the cannabis is listed on there is simply because the applicant told us that was his intent.
Right. And if approved, he can conduct a cannabis dispensary without permit or anything of that nature.
Well,
if that's the case. Right.
If he
don't use
doesn't,
permit, but yeah, you still need a license.
Yeah, license.
yeah, he's got to go through the state licensing.
Right, okay. That was just one of my questions. I don't know if there's any others. Supervisor Sabatier?
So this one's tough because the conversation is supposed to be narrow and not broad, but at the same time, there's already a suggestion of what the end result will be based on the actions that we take. And a lot of the public comments are related to what is proposed, but yet that's not what we're discussing today. And I know that when looking at the code, there's a huge gap between what a C1 does for dispensary and what a C2 does. One is a major use permit and one is just an allowable use. That, I just have to express that that's very confusing to me as to why one does not have to go through the same level of scrutiny and public comment and things like that, and one just has to go through the litany of things that you have to go through. I don't think it's something that can change today, but it's just something that it doesn't make sense to me that the same type of thing can have such a huge difference in the process to get to the same place, depending on C1 and C2. And I don't know how to handle this one other than saying that what used to be there, I believe it's a post office that used to be there?
No, in front right now is an East Market, which is like a convenience store, and then behind it used to be the Evening Rose, which was a restaurant that became Gordo's Tacos, and then it went folded under. It hasn't been anything since.
Yeah, gotcha. I thought I saw U.S. Post Office when I did Google Streets or something like that.
It was
so that was long before that. Right. And those uses are very much community uses. Versus a dispensary is much more refined to a specific group of people that are interested in it, like similar to a bar, rather than for everyone to have access to that. So it is right next to a C2, both across the street and to the side. But this one troubles me, and I had to express the difference between the C1 and the C2 because I'd like to see a little bit more commonality of what kind of scrutiny the process is for these things to occur in a neighborhood. I think it would be wise for us to look at ensuring that we have public comment, but the way it is, as it is, that does not occur. So, and I can't continue to speak on it because it's about the rezone, not the proposed project. So I'll leave it at that.
All right. Is there any comments from any of the Board of Supervisors, any others? Open it up to public input, if there's anyone in the chambers that would like to speak on this. Are you here for this item, ma'am?
Well, we're the owners of the lot.
Would you like to state anything on behalf of this?
Well,
if you could come to the microphone and please state your name for the record.
my name is Mary Ann Alexander, and my husband Rocky and I have owned that since 1976. And the people that are in it now, as the convenience store, they're ready to leave. So it's not like it's going to be a store anymore. When we had it, it was a grocery store with meat, produce. You know, you could fix a whole dinner. Now it's just, you know, a bag of chips, or there's no soda in there anymore. She sells beer. I mean, they're really nice people, but they just don't have a business anymore.
Can I ask you a couple questions?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm there quite frequently. There is soda in there. There's groceries in there.
Yes.
And also from what I understand, they said they've asked the owners, who is basically you, if what's happening, and you've told them that you don't know.
Well, no, we discussed that it was going to be a dispensary. She was the one that told me before I knew. Apparently, letters were sent out to residents, you know, to let them know what was going in there, and one of them brought it in and showed Bhupender.
And they asked me as well, and at the time, I didn't know. This is about 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah.
And more, and...
Well, she asked me, and I said, well, I have not heard that. I did not know that.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know the man that's buying the property or had looked at it.
Okay.
We've never met.
And so, because from what I understand, they don't plan on leaving, but that's just neither here nor there, because they're tenants, basically. So
Well, what she said, I talked to her last week and told her that there was a meeting coming up, and she says, well, we'll keep our fingers crossed or something like that. And then she got to talking about the things that are coming into the store. They cannot get deliveries anymore because like the grocery people, the Pepsi, all those have put limits on how much you have to order. So they can't get that stuff delivered to them now. They go to stores and buy it and bring it in.
Okay.
So it's been very hard on them because they can't meet the criteria that all these companies want now.
Okay, thank you for that. I sure wish they were here to elaborate, but they're not. So that's all questions I had. So
Okay.
if you had anything else to add, did you have questions, Supervisor Sabatier, or? Go ahead.
Yeah, I do have a question. You said you've never met Mr. Sosa. I just want to make sure, because he's the applicant rezoning, you've had communication with Mr. Sosa?
No.
You just,
No, I've never talked to him. I just go through our real estate person.
okay, so they're going through a mutual third party, because I'm kind of concerned that someone else is trying to rezone your property and you've never met this person. I just want to make sure that there's at least some connection.
No, and I knew our realtor, which is Cassie Pivaniska, she had told us that they would have to rezone and that it would be a long process. But that, we've just talked to her. We have not met the man.
Thank you. Within our application in the project file, we do have an authorization letter for a zone change application signed by Marianne Alexander, Secretary.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Okay. If there's nothing else to add.
No, that's all.
Okay, thank you. And I'll look online and see if there's any other comments. I'm not seeing any hands up. All right, so I'll close public input at this time since there's no other hands up online. Bring it back to the board. And is there anything else to add that you wanted to add, Eric or Maria?
Wait for questions. Thank you.
I don't necessarily have questions. They're more of statements. I know that some of the folks have reached out to me, couldn't be here today either, and mentioned that, and I know some of this I'm going to walk a very fine line because it's activity in the neighborhood that's more of the concern of some of the public. In that area, there is a neighborhood watch, and they've already accentuated that there's issues in that neighborhood with this. They feel like it would exacerbate those issues. Especially in regard to sales of another substance, which is more illegal than the one that we're dealing with. However, my other issue with this, and I don't want to sound discriminatory, is I know that the person that is applying for this has worked in Double Eagle Ranch with other people and has had many issues with that community. And I won't go into detail with that. So for me, I'll use a familiar situation to use an analogy, and that is the Dollar General, where we had 2 in the district, and they were trying to apply for more. We do have a dispensary in Lucerne. I feel like this is another one that would be really close in proximity to it. I know it's a right for people to do these things. I just have an issue not only with the fact that there will be another one specifically down the road, and I know that the applicant will pursue this, and I just I don't feel comfortable with the relationship that the applicant has with community members in previous situations. So it's really hard for me to trust this individual when it comes to this type of thing. So that's all I'll say on that. Supervisor Sabatier?
Question for Director Turner. I know that you have the task force that's ongoing and having conversations. Is there a plan to review? I know we kind of tasked you with the cannabis ordinance, but does that include dispensaries in the review of that ordinance?
Yes, the Cannabis Task Force will review all aspects of the cannabis policy that is existing, including land use, which is where the use by right versus conditional use permit requirement comes in. So that will all be examined and considered.
Because I think that there's some that have opened up, some that are still in the works, even though they've been approved to open up soon. And I think that we need to look at what we've learned and see if there's any changes. But again, I'm getting in the weeds of the specifics of the project rather than the rezone. Last question for you, just, and it sounds like spot zoning, but what is the difference, the true difference between a C2 and a C1?
C1 is more of a local commercial. It's a neighborhood-based type of commercial, so it's servicing just the locals, like a smaller radius. This is actually zoned highway commercial, and so it is it's designed to meet the needs of our traveling public. It's different than community commercial, which is C2, which services a larger, it's not just your local neighborhood, but they're anticipating a large amount of traffic in and out. So your typical retails are going to be, let's see, in highway commercial, I'll go back to C2 in just a moment, but in highway commercial, if this was to stay highway commercial, it would be available for use by right with restaurants, coffee shops, delis, drive-throughs, outdoor dining areas, real estate offices, and some other highway commercial uses when similar character to those that are listed above. So it's not just limited to neighborhood markets. It would have other options. Then let me go over to C1, one moment, or C2. In C2, that's where we start getting into retail sales of food, appliances. So these are our larger food stores. We've got barber and beauty shops, so professional offices, professional services, anticipating that it's going to serve not just the neighborhood surrounding it, but also other people coming in. We can do shoe repair, jewelry repair, restaurants, cafes, delis, professional offices. So here's where you can get your surveyors, your copiers, things like that. Small animal veterinary clinics, doctor's offices, things like that would be appropriate in C2. Typically, well, this parcel would not represent spot zoning because it is adjacent to C2. So it would not be creating the land use conflicts necessarily because it's surrounded by, it would be surrounded by the similar uses, or to the west it would be. So we avoid spot zoning, which is where you create an island of zoning surrounded by a different zone structure because of the anticipated land use conflicts. So we did not see that here. Again, when we're considering a rezone project, we're considering all possible uses for that proposed zoning district, rather than strictly limiting it to what the applicant says they may or may not, what they might plan to do there. So retail cannabis, yes, would be a use by right, meaning that their use would not require a conditional permit. However, should they decide to make significant alterations to the facade or enlarge their footprint, then that would likely trigger a design review or development review permit. That is conditional. So we're, as planners, we're looking at all possible uses that would be contained within the proposed zoning change. I hope I answered your question somewhere in there.
And just want to make sure and clarify that I didn't see what you're offering as a spot zone. My question about C1 feels like that would be a spot zone since it is not surrounded by C1 at all.
To go from highway commercial to C1 would, yes, be a spot zoning. Yeah. We would avoid that.
And my struggles with this is the way that the shape of the property is, the fact that it's two properties rather than just one. One of them seems to be facing the community more so than the highway, and one is definitely on the highway, but that's where it becomes a little awkward. Yeah.
And I'll just state that I do appreciate the recommendation from staff, and I am no way trying to second guess what has been recommended. I just have I have experience with the community and experience situations involving some folks involved, and so for me, I have a very hard time, with that. So I'll just state that one last time and go from there. And if there's, I know it's in my district, if someone would like to go forward from there.
Already did public comment?
Yes, yes.
Is that all right? So I just want to clarify, there's 3 motions that will be needed here, or? Negative declaration, then the,
First is the CEQA for the negative declaration, and then the rezone itself, since it includes an ordinance, has multiple motions for that ordinance.
okay, I want to just make sure I get them. All right, I'll try something here. I move that, Mr. Chair, I move that the Board of Supervisors find the rezone applied for Daniel Sosa property located at 3774 and 3794 East Highway 20 East, California, further described as APN 032-181-02 and 03, will not have a significant environmental impact, and that the board adopts a negative declaration based on the findings set forth in the memorandum dated October 18, 2022.
Is there a second?
Can I ask for a 2-minute break?
Is the board okay with that?
Yeah, I guess we can do it in the middle of a motion. I would look to an yeah.
I don't see a second, so I'm thinking that. Let's hold the motion and then have a really quick 2-minute break and come back.
And I apologize for that.
No worries. All right. right, welcome back from our break. We were in the middle of a motion made by Supervisor Simon, and so just wanted to call one more time if there was a second, and if not, the motion dies. Supervisor Sabatier?
So, Mr. Chair, I would like to make an alternate motion or a second motion to, due to the location and due to the potential of what C2 opens up for new type of businesses at that location, I feel that I'm going to put a motion to deny or to, how do I, to not approve the negative declaration IS 22-19 due to the potential impacts to the general area of that property.
Ms. Grant?
A motion was made to approve the negative declaration based upon no significant impacts that died for lack of a second.
Right.
So now what you're asking for is to make an affirmative motion.
Yes. No, not an affirmative motion.
But to deny?
To deny.
But to deny the fact that a negative declaration is appropriate.
I am not approving, I do not want to approve the negative declaration that is in front of us, so I am denying the negative declaration.
As being insufficient, because
Yes.
that's your, okay, that's what I was trying to get to.
I apologize, I knew my wording wasn't correct, I looked your way. Thank you for the assistance.
All right. Is there a second? I will pass the gavel to Vice Chair Pyska and second that motion.
Okay, so you seconded it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Supervisor Simon?
No.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Supervisor Crandall?
Aye.
And Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
Thank you.
And at this point, we don't need to approve any of the following.
No. All right. So with that, that closes this item. And the motion passes. With that, we'll move on to our next item, which is a 6.6, which is our 11:30. Public hearing, consideration of ordinance rescinding specific sections of the Lake County zoning ordinance relating to early activation. And Maria Turner?
Hello again. Maria Turner, Director of Community Development. This past summer, in July, the board adopted an urgency ordinance establishing a moratorium on the issuance of early activation of use permits. Simultaneously, it approved a resolution of intent to amend the zoning code regarding the rescission or the removal of the early activation of use permits from the Lake County Code. Part of that resolution of intent was a request for, or direction to community development to take the concept, the proposed ordinance to rescind early activation of use permits to both the Cannabis Task Force and the Planning Commission. Beginning of August, it went to the task force, which supported a recommendation to remove early activation of use from the zoning ordinance. Later that month, it went to the Planning Commission, which affirmed that same recommendation. When it came to your board at the end of August, the wording in the agenda was more of a notification rather than allowing the board to take action at that time. So since then to now, this draft ordinance has been properly noticed and is now coming before you in a public hearing so that action can be taken by your board. And this ordinance, just to be super clear, would remove early activation of use from a couple different spots in the zoning ordinance. So it would no longer be an option.
Supervisor Sabatier?
You stated a couple different spots. I thought it was only the application types within the commercial cannabis, that it would take away the potential of early activation. That's I believe, the only, unless I missed it. Because I'm looking at the ordinance here, and it says Section 1, and it just says Sections 21-27.4 and Section
Yes.
21-27.13.
Yes, it is currently available for both zoning permit and use permit levels. This will remove it from both.
So this removes early activation altogether.
Correct.
Thank you. Apologize for only catching the latter one.
Any other comments? Supervisor Pyska? Any comments? Okay. Open it up for the public on this item. Not seeing anyone in the chambers with their hands up, so I see a hand up in Zoom. Brett's Moto G Power. I see your hand up. Do you have a comment on this item on the agenda?
No comment.
Okay. Your hand's up, so I didn't press *6. It'll probably take it down, so. All right.
Oh.
There you go. All right.
Apologize.
No worries. And so with that, we'll bring it back to the board for action. Supervisor Sabatier.
And I apologize for having this question because I missed the fact that this was entirely the getting rid of the early activation. That existed prior to cannabis. Was it used for other projects or for other things prior to cannabis?
Yes. It was used in mostly commercial permits. Say you are getting a use permit in a building to change the use of the building. I remember there were early activation of use permits that were issued where we went through the environmental kind of checklist criteria to make sure there were not going to be any environmental impacts. And so they have been issued. They're rare, but they have been issued.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. We're ready for a motion? Mr. Chair, I move to approve a first reading of the draft ordinance and read in title only and advance the ordinance to the next meeting date. Sorry.
One second.
I'm sorry, it's two motions. You've got it right, it just can't be combined. The first one is to have the ordinance waive reading, read in title only, and then a motion to advance.
So moved.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Johanna, please conduct roll call.
Supervisor Simon?
Yes.
The motion's to waive reading and have, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Excuse me, we haven't gotten there yet, excuse me.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Crandall?
Yes.
And then the title is Board of Supervisors, Lake County, State of California, an ordinance rescinding specified sections of the Lake County zoning ordinance relating to early activation.
And then the motion to advance.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move to advance the ordinance to the next meeting date, which is
25th.
October 25th.
October 25th. Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Conduct the roll call, please, Johanna.
Simon?
Yes.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Crandall?
Yes. And motion carries. And so, thank you again, Director Turner. Our next timed item is at 1 p.m., so we'll go ahead and cover some of the non-timed items, or do we have, yeah.
You might want to try if Mr. French is on Zoom, 5 point, is it 18? 18 Zoom item.
I do not see him.
And if not, you may wish to go to the 7.2 or 7.3 or 7.7.
Supervisor Sabatier, what's your?
I don't know that, my opinion, that Mr. French is not needed. It was a missing attachment that was not attached to the agenda. I wanted to make sure that that was shared, very similar to 5.28. that it was shared rather than just approving what was written on the memo, that we have the document of evidence of what it is that exactly that we are approving. I don't know if it's been added to the...
5.18, right? I see renewal, and then I see another renewal.
And so, yes, so those attachments have been added to the agenda, and just wondering if maybe Johanna can share the screen, that way make sure that everybody sees it, and then we should be able to move forward. Again, my opinion, I think this is simple, I just wanted to make sure the information was available.
Well, now that she's shared the screen, I guess we'll go ahead and do that one. 5.18, waive formal bidding requirement pursuant to Lake County Code Section 38.1, as it is an extension of an annual agreement and county purchasing agent has determined such action to be a cost advantage and in the best interest of the county, and B, authorize the IT director to issue a purchase order to Zoom Video Communications Incorporated for Zoom video conferencing licenses in the amount of $27,581.96. And so Johanna has the invoice up. Are there any other questions on this or comments? Not hearing any. I'll open it up to the public. And I don't see any hands up, so I'll bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to waive the formal bidding requirement pursuant to Lake County Code Section 38.1, as it is an extension of an annual agreement, and the county purchasing agent has determined that such action to be a cost advantage and in the best interest of the county, and authorized the IT director to issue a purchase order to Zoom Video Communications, Inc. for Zoom video conferencing licenses in the amount of $27,581.96.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Please conduct the roll call.
Okay, Supervisor Simon?
Yes.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Crandall?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, so I'll move on to item 7.7. I just wanted to, I know this is involving Lucerne Area Town Hall, wanted to continue this item as they meet this Thursday, and one of the topics of discussion is filling the open position. So I'd just like to give them that opportunity to discuss that at that meeting and move forward on Tuesday from there. So if that's okay, I don't know if we have to take action or if we just need to push it forward.
Just consensus is fine.
There's a consensus on that?
Yes.
For me?
Okay. So with that, we'll deal with that next week. Let's see. 7.2, consideration of an advocacy letter requesting urgent state action in support of Lake County's tree mortality emergency. And I see Jessica Pyska, you're on, and I know this is one of the items you've been working on along with staff, of course.
Yeah, this is a follow-up from our meeting a few weeks ago at the request of Senator McGuire to pull this information together so that we can get support from our CRC and CSAC and his office, as well as our Assembly Member Aguiar Curry.
All right. Any questions from the board?
No, completely support it.
All right. Open it up to the public for any comment. Not seeing any hands up, I'll bring it back to the board for action.
Oops.
I think she's ready for motion.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve that advocacy letter and authorize the chair to sign.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Please conduct a roll call. Johanna?
Supervisor Simon?
Yes.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Crandall?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, motion carries. Item 7.3, consideration of county representation for October 27th meeting with CPUC Commissioner Darcy Hawk and Rural County Representative of California, RCRC, discussion to gather board member and public input in preparation for this meeting. CAO Parker, I see you're on this, but I also see Matthew Rothstein, the Deputy County Administrative Officer here, so I'm pretty sure you're going to hand it over to him anyhow.
Good morning, Board, and my name is Matthew Rothstein. I'm Deputy County Administrative Officer. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you this morning. So as you're aware from the memo, on Thursday morning, October 27, Commissioner Darcy Houck of the California Public Utilities Commission has agreed to meet with a small delegation from the County of Lake and representatives from RCRC to better understand the unique challenges facing our county that intersect the work of the CPUC. And you're probably also aware this meeting flows in part from recent discussions surrounding PG&E's vegetation management program and wood hauling program and practices. And given her central role in that ongoing conversation, Supervisor Pyska has already agreed to attend this meeting as one representative of your board. However, we wanted to bring this item forward today, as we're all aware that each of you have issues that intersect both CPUC and PG&E responsibilities, for example, in your own districts, and wanted to ensure that you had the opportunity to both weigh in on a potential second Board of Supervisors representative for this meeting, and also provide any input that you had in terms of topic areas you feel should be focused on, whether you are the assigned representative or not at the meeting. So potential topics include the following, and not limited to: wood haul, vegetation management, PG&E system capacity issues. We've been hearing in some other counties there have been instances where PG&E was unable to provide electrical service to new businesses or housing projects, for example. PG&E's fast trip or enhanced power line safety settings program, where power is automatically shut off in response to hazards such as a tree falling on a power line. And also, the CPUC does have responsibilities related to broadband. As your board is aware, we'll soon be developing an implementation plan for our broadband plan in consultation with a consultant. And it seems prudent to ask the commissioner potentially what pitfalls others have experienced in similar efforts. But now with that introduction, I'm very interested to hear your discussion and potential additional topics and consideration of a potential second representative for that meeting.
All right. Supervisor Pyska, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so last week we had an RCRC coordinated meeting with 12 counties talking about these issues. I know this same commissioner is headed up to Humboldt, I think next week, to meet specifically about the PG&E issues with vegetation management, as well as the outages. So I think that's primarily where the conversation's going to be. I know Supervisor Simon joined me on a call with Senator McGuire last week, and Supervisor Crandall joined with a different RCRC call later in the afternoon on Friday, kind of touching on a lot of those topics, or both of those topics.
And so potential topics, it could include more items to discuss, like, for example, in regard to PG&E and CPUC, I hate to go all the way in left field, but Lake Pillsbury Scott Dam, would that be something I could potentially, if chosen to alternate and help, would that be something to discuss? Or
I think so. Yeah. I think I think that's an important thing to bring up, and if you want to be a part, I would recommend that you be the second supervisor then.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I would love to discuss that and also support on the current issues at hand that are brought up, especially with broadband. I know that we've been working very hard on trying to get that, some of the funding and some of that work done in our county, so I'd be glad to be there. And not to mention representing RCRC as well, so.
Yes, and Supervisor Simon, your issues with the transmission lines, if you want to pass those to us, and we'd be happy to bring those up.
Yeah, I think they're obviously well aware of it, but absolutely, I'll get those numbers for you, and it's the same conversation I have with PG&E all the time. So, yes, I will get that information through Matthew.
Supervisor Sabatier?
No, I agree that the Lake Pillsbury, to me, it kind of fits within the system capacity issues. If it goes away, that is now some megawatts that they will no longer be able to produce. Granted, they're fixing their generators there as we speak, but I think that's a good place to have that conversation. Appreciate that all the others are on there as identified topics to speak about, but there is one that I feel that CPUC has been absolutely lacking in bringing into the 21st century and creating a little bit more local control, and that's to request a change to Rule 20A. The undergrounding of wires is now in the hands of PG&E and not the local communities, and I think we both need to be working on undergrounding, and they're not changing the rules on how that money is collected and how that money is spent. Right now, it's still identified as a beautification process. I would love to see it being more of a fire suppression process as well as beautification to allow us a little bit more flexibility on how to use those funds. So I think that's an important topic for me. I don't know if that's an important for the board, but just wanted to mention Rule 20A.
I'd be glad to discuss that as well. All right, so is there any other comments from the board? Open it up for public input. Is there anybody from the public that would like to discuss this item? And I'm not seeing any hands up in Zoom, so I'll bring it back to the board for, I think it is action.
So we're just making an action on the second, or should we do an action on both supervisors representing?
Or does a consensus work, Anita?
I think in this case, you should just confirm by motion who the supervisors are going to be.
So I move to approve our Vice Chair Pyska and Chair Crandall as our supervisor representatives in the discussion with CPUC regarding PG&E topics as discussed.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Johanna, please conduct roll call.
Okay, Supervisor Simon?
Yes.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Crandall?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you, Matthew, and Supervisor Pyska as well on that one, and of course, CAO Parker.
Thank you, Matthew.
Let's see here.
I don't know how long 5.11 will be, but if it's going to be an extended time, maybe you want to do calendars or just convene for...
You got the last board appointment.
Oh, I wanted to continue that one.
Oh, okay. Next week. That one.
Yeah. Maybe we do calendars then. We'll conduct calendars. So Supervisor Simon, looks like you're ready.
Yeah, all right. Board meeting finishing up today. I don't have anything on the calendar for tomorrow, but on Thursday I do have a couple of meetings. I did have on here a Grants Best Fits meeting, but also have the, I think, EMCC bi-monthly meeting. I think I'm on there now. Did we make a change on that? I think I am. So I have that at
Thursday.
October 20th, 10:30 to 12. Yeah. And then a little confusion. Is the disaster council meeting this Thursday, Jessica? I thought it was last week, so I had the wrong date. So there's a disaster council meeting this Thursday at 3 p.m. So I had it messed up on my calendar. And then Friday morning, have the meeting with the CAO, and then moving right into the weekend, and then back here on Tuesday for the board meeting. We did have the Risk Reduction Authority meeting yesterday. We have done some format changes. I think the first time we've gotten done in about an hour and a half yesterday, so we're going to continue that to try and move forward. What we've done is kind of restructured through CMAT process where we have different reporting opportunities for folks, and then also tying into the Lake County Fire Safe Council, for some other reporting opportunities. So I think we're in a transition as we're moving forward, but those are things we've done. We've also scheduled a director's budget conversation that's going to be coming up on November 4th to really look at priorities for this year. That was asked from some of the directors, and we're going to go ahead and take care of that. We have that scheduled for November 4th. So also during the time off, I attended multiple meetings with Supervisor Pyska. I think one of the biggest ones was with PG&E last week. She can report more, but as things are just continuing down the road. I think this will be long-term continual conversations, whether it's undergrounding, whether it's tree removal, all these other things that we're continuing to discuss and bring to the attention of PG&E to just try and get better at it, to let them know our concerns of our constituents and continue to push, hopefully on the behalf of our community and our county, if they're going to be working here to do it right. So we'll continue that, and obviously we just set up another conversation that Supervisor Pyska and Chair Crandall are going to handle. So that's all I have.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Okay. Tomorrow I'm meeting with, I believe it's CSAC. We've been talking about RCRC, so I got it confused. Trying to learn a lot more, and I'm also going to be meeting with NACO staff. I just don't have an appointment quite yet, but about human services, entitlements, and just I need to better understand how those things work, and having also a larger scale conversation about legislation that impacts our jail and our jail medical specifically, and I'll bring more information about that as I move forward through this. Then I meet with the Parks Group to review the facilities that we've been talking about, both the rec center and the aquatic center. Then later on, I'm part of a committee for the city of Clear Lake to oversee the spending expenditures of Measure V, which is the road tax. I'll be joining that. On Thursday, I have a Continuum of Care Executive Committee meeting. I have a intra-facility transfer meeting and an emergency medical center county committee. I'm not quite sure what the CC stands for, but the one that Supervisor Simon mentioned. I will be also at that meeting. Later on in that evening, I'll be joining the City Council for their meeting, just to make sure I keep up on the changes and activities that they're up to. And on Friday, I have a meeting with Chief Cepeda in the morning, and with it's our behavioral health staff, but it's the housing navigation meeting that occurs on Friday for the check-in. And then coming back on Monday, I have a meeting with the Economic Mobility Leadership Network from NACO. Get a presentation and a meeting. We are starting to prepare for our trip to Mobile, Alabama, which I'm looking forward to. And then I have a meeting with, I believe I have something at the same time that I'm supposed to meet with my RCAO. And it was for the Hope Rising Budget Committee. So I'm going to see if we can change the time that we meet, because I want to make sure and get to that. There's some good things that are occurring in the back end for Hope Rising. There needed to be some financial cleanup and creation of budgets and things like that. And I think that everything is slowly migrating towards where everybody wants it to be and what everybody needs it to be. So happy to be a part of that. And I think that's all I have, and then back here again on the 25th.
All right. Vice Chair Pyska?
So I was really busy the last 2 weeks. Unfortunately, the state has failed to respond to our tree mortality emergency. We have not gotten a response one way or the other, and that is very disappointing. So I spent a lot of time making phone calls and having meetings and trying to ring every bell possible to get the attention and the assistance that we need. So as Supervisor Simon mentioned, Senator McGuire set up a meeting with PG&E last Wednesday. So we had regional and corporate PG&E members, along with Supervisor Simon, myself, and I, Senator McGuire, and Assemblymember Aguiar-Curry. And we just talked through a lot of the issues that we're having locally. But for me, the 3 priorities that I continue to press hard on them is that we need the work to be done. And number 2, we need the work to be cleaned up after, as they're doing their work. And number 3 is we need them to follow their best management practices and mitigation efforts. And those 3 things kind of distill a combination of all of the problems that we are having with them. So we'll continue to push hard. They heard us, our electeds heard us. So I continue to be in contact with them. I have invited PG&E, as I mentioned earlier, to the Cauberry Council meeting, which is this Thursday night, for the community to speak directly to PG&E about their concerns. That was one of the things that I also brought up, is that they need to be responsive to the community and accessible to the community, and that we're happy to elevate complaints, but they need to make themselves available, and the community needs to be able to have better contact with them. So that was last week, Wednesday, that was that meeting. And then on Friday, I had 2 separate meetings that RCRC set up. One was with as I mentioned earlier, with 12 counties that are having difficulties with the cleanup that PG&E is doing and some of the work that they're doing. So that again goes back to finishing the job and making sure that their subcontractors are following their BMPs and all the mitigation efforts. So there needs to be some accountability there. So this week, tomorrow, I have agenda review, zone of benefit meeting at the courthouse. Then I'm part of this wildfire photo voice research group, which spoke at the Risk Reduction Authority yesterday. So they're trying to work with different communities that have lived through wildfire, so we're doing that. Thursday, we have the Best Fits grant meeting. I have a tree mortality meeting with Senator McGuire's office, and this is to follow up on the lack of response from the governor's office and Cal OES to our emergency, which we declared in May. So hopefully we'll be seeing some action with that soon. The Disaster Council is at 3 o'clock, and then I will have the Cauberry Council at 6:30. Friday, we moved the tree mortality task force from the Risk Reduction Authority back to the county because of the work that has to happen through Public Works. So that meeting, I'm not sure if that's going to be a standing meeting at the 9 o'clock time. I'll be working with our CAO on setting up that resilience work. We have our weekly staff meeting with tree mortality with Director De Leon. And then I have another meeting at 1 o'clock with Director Turner. And Monday is just my meeting with CAO Parker, and then back on Tuesday.
All right. So tomorrow morning I have agenda review, and then I will have the aquatics meeting as well with Lars Ewing. In the evening, we'll have the Western Region Town Hall. On Thursday, the 20th, I'll have the Lucerne Area Town Hall. Friday, I'll be meeting with Community Development. And then Monday, I'll have the Scotts Valley Advisory Committee meeting, and then back here on Tuesday for the Board of Supervisors meeting. So that conducts my calendar for the week, and yes.
I just have a question for CAO. Has there been any information at all from the governor's office about our vacant seat?
No.
Any update on that?
No notice.
Oh,
I just heard Scotts Valley, and I felt bad.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, it looks like it's 12:05. We will come back at 1:05 from our break from lunch and move on to our timed item for that. So we'll see you after lunch. All right.